Another empty sector, First Scout Nix Talon mumbled, her 4 eyes blinking in synchronized boredom as she monitored the quantum scanners aboard the research vessel Starweaver. The ship had been mapping this supposedly uninhabited region of space for 3 standard months, and she was ready to recommend terminating the mission. Nothing but void and... Wait. Her scaled fingers froze above the control panel. The quantum readings were... wrong. No, not wrong. Impossible. The sector ahead showed energy signatures that resembled cloaking technology, but on a scale that made no logical sense. "Chief Observer Vamara to the bridge," she announced through the ship's communication system, her voice trembling slightly. "Priority 1. Kex Vamara arrived moments later, his ceremonial robes of office swishing against the polished deck plates. As the youngest chief observer ever appointed by the Galactic Council, he had a reputation for being brilliant, methodical, and occasionally insufferable. "This had better be important, First Scout," he said, adjusting his ceremonial collar. "I was in the middle of composing my latest report on the evolutionary patterns of... by the void." His voice cut off as he saw the readings. Across an entire sector of space that should have been empty, a vast network of carefully hidden monitoring stations stretched out like a spider's web. And at the center of it all... "Humans," Kex whispered, mandibles clicking in excitement. "But that's impossible. They're isolationists. They haven't responded to any diplomatic overtures in over 50 cycles." The data streams flowing across their screens told a fascinating story. These weren't military installations, at least not primarily. They were observation posts, carefully positioned to monitor something. But what could be important enough for the most reclusive species in known space to maintain such an extensive presence? "Send an immediate priority message to the Council," Kex ordered, his professional demeanor cracking slightly as his secondary hearts began beating faster. "And prepare first contact protocols. Something tells me we're about to uncover why humanity has been so... quiet." The message was transmitted through quantum channels, carrying his official report. "To the distinguished members of the Galactic Council, this is Chief Observer Kex Vamara. We have discovered evidence of extensive human presence in Sector 7249, previously designated as uninhabited space. Request immediate guidance and authorization to initiate diplomatic contact. The scale of their installation suggests this is not a simple observation post. There is something here they are watching, or protecting." As Kex waited for the Council's response, he couldn't shake the feeling that they had stumbled upon something far more significant than a simple breach of territory agreements. The humans were hiding something, and judging by the complexity of their sensor network, they were willing to invest enormous resources to keep it hidden. "First Scout," he said, turning to Nix, "take us in closer, but maintain our passive scanning profile. Let's see what our mysterious neighbors are so interested in protecting." "Your hypothesis was correct, Chief Observer," Nix announced, her voice filled with awe as the Starweaver's sensors penetrated the sophisticated human cloaking field. "But the truth is far more extraordinary than we imagined." Kex Vamara rushed to the observation deck, nearly colliding with 2 junior analysts in his haste. The sight before him left him speechless. Below their vessel, a pristine oceanic world sparkled like a blue jewel. But it wasn't the planet that caused his secondary hearts to skip a beat. It was the network of satellites, stations, and defensive platforms surrounding it. "They're protecting them," he breathed out, watching the data stream across his neural interface. "The Lyrians, a pre-FTL aquatic species, barely into their industrial age. The humans have surrounded their entire solar system with a defensive grid." Before Kex could process this revelation, the ship's AI announced, "Incoming transmission from human vessel designation, Guardian Shield." A holographic window materialized, revealing a human female with copper-colored skin and sharp features. "This is Diplomat Morgan Rivera of the Earth Protection Forces. You've entered a restricted development zone. Please state your intentions." Kex straightened his posture, engaging his universal translator. "Chief Observer Kex Vamara of the Galactic Council. We were conducting a routine survey when we detected your presence. Diplomat Rivera, I must ask, why are you here? Rivera's expression remained neutral, but her eyes sparked with something that might have been pride. Permission to dock with your vessel granted. This conversation should happen face to face. 30 minutes later, Kex found himself sharing his private chamber with the human diplomat. Rivera moved with a fluid grace that seemed to defy the ship's artificial gravity. What you've discovered today, she began, is one of 17 protected zones. The Lyrians aren't alone. We watch over developing civilizations across this sector, ensuring their natural evolution remains undisturbed. But why? Nix interjected from her position by the door. Humanity has rejected countless invitations to join the Galactic Council. You've built walls around your colonies, refused trade agreements. We thought you wanted nothing to do with other species. Rivera smiled, a gesture Kex found both warming and unsettling. We isolated ourselves precisely because we wanted to protect others. The Council's policies on developing civilizations are insufficient. You study them, document them, and move on. We chose a different path. She activated a small projector showing a galaxy map dotted with green markers. Each point represents a species on the brink of something magnificent. The Lyrians below us. They're about to discover faster-than-light theory. The Keth in the Perseus arm are developing their first unified planetary government. The Zara Collective is exploring quantum consciousness. And you protect them all? Kex asked, his scientific mind racing with implications. The resources required, the commitment. We remember our own history, Rivera said softly. How close we came to destruction, how many times we nearly wiped ourselves out. These species deserve the chance to rise or fall on their own terms, without external interference, even from well-meaning observers. A notification chimed through the ship's systems. Council representatives requesting emergency conference, the AI announced. They won't understand, Nix said, her tone concerned. The Council believes in controlled advancement, supervised development. Rivera stood, smoothing her uniform. Then perhaps it's time for humanity to step out of the shadows. Not for ourselves, but for those we protect. The real question, Chief Observer Vamara, is where will you stand when this becomes public? Kex looked at the planet below, at the shimmering ocean world that knew nothing of the Guardians watching over it. The implications were staggering. Humanity hadn't withdrawn from galactic society out of fear or xenophobia. They'd done it to become silent protectors, guardians of species that didn't even know they existed. The council session begins in 10 minutes, Nix reminded him. Then we better make sure we get this right, Kex said, his decision made. Diplomat Rivera, I believe it's time to show the Council exactly what humanity has been doing out here in the empty sectors of space. The Council chamber erupted into chaos as the sensor data streamed across the massive holographic display. Kex watched 12 of the most powerful beings in the galaxy argue like freshly hatched younglings, while Rivera stood silent, her face a mask of controlled concern. A quantum storm, third speaker Zal announced, their crystalline form vibrating with distress. Category 7, possibly 8. It will tear through this sector in less than 40 standard hours. The choice is clear, second speaker Maya thundered, slamming a tendril against the ancient table. We evacuate the protection fleet and human installations. The Lyrians, regrettable, but they are pre-FTL. The natural order must be maintained. Kex noticed Rivera touching her communications device. Within moments, a new hologram materialized, a stern-faced human female with silver-streaked black hair and commanding presence. Commander Elena Blackwood, Earth Protection Forces, she announced without preamble, and evacuation is not an option we're considering. The council chamber fell silent. Even the perpetually moving air filters seemed to pause. Commander, First Speaker Thorne began diplomatically, you must understand, a quantum storm of this magnitude will destroy everything in its path. The protection fleet, the monitoring stations, even your crews. The loss of life will be prevented, Blackwood cut in. All of it. The Lyrians number 8 billion souls. We didn't stand watch over their civilization for 70 years just to abandon them to cosmic chaos. Keck stepped forward, his scientific mind racing. Commander, the energy required to deflect a quantum storm is precisely why we built the Guardian Shield program, Blackwood replied. On her command, new data filled the chamber. Blueprints for massive shield generators, power calculations that made Kex's head spin, and deployment strategies scrolled past. Impossible, fourth speaker Wren whispered. The power requirements alone would drain a star. Which is exactly what we plan to do, Rivera added, finally breaking her silence. The Lyrian system has 3 stars. We've been building solar tap stations disguised as regular monitoring platforms for decades, for exactly this kind of situation. Kex watched the council members process this information. The humans hadn't just been watching, they'd been preparing. Every satellite, every station, every patrol route had been meticulously planned for the day they'd need to defend their charges. The storm will hit in 38 hours, Blackwood continued. My fleet is already moving into position. We'll form a defensive line with our ships and the shield platforms. Either we succeed, or we go down trying. Madness, second speaker Mir muttered. Complete madness. A new alert flashed across the displays. Kex felt his scales tighten as he read the data. The storm. It's accelerating. New projection shows impact in 26 hours. Blackwood's expression hardened. Rivera, get back to the command ship. Chief Observer, I need your vessel's sensor array tied into our network. Council members, you can either help us save 8 billion lives or watch us try. Your choice. The chamber erupted again, but this time with purpose. Fourth speaker Wren authorized the release of emergency power cores. Third speaker Zal offered their specialized shielding technology. Even second speaker Mir, after much grumbling, pledged a squadron of ships. Kex found himself aboard the human command vessel 12 hours later, watching in awe as the protection fleet transformed into a defensive army. Ships of all sizes moved with precision, taking positions that had been calculated decades in advance. The solar tap stations hummed to life, drawing impossible amounts of power from the system's 3 stars. Energy reserves at 60%. A human technician called out. Shield grid synchronization at 83% and climbing. Commander Blackwood stood at the center of the bridge, orchestrating the defense with the calm efficiency of someone who had run this scenario countless times in simulation. Begin evacuation of non-essential personnel from all stations. I want everyone in position in 10 hours. Commander, Kex said quietly, approaching her station. The Council has never seen anything like this. The level of preparation, the resources involved. You've been ready for this since the day you found them, haven't you? Blackwood's eyes never left the tactical display. When we first achieved faster-than-light travel, we found the wreckage of civilizations that didn't make it. Entire species wiped out by cosmic events, planetary disasters, or their own technological mistakes. We decided then that if we couldn't save those who came before, we'd damn well save those who came after. The ship's AI announced, Quantum storm boundary approaching, 22 hours to impact, shield grid synchronization at 91%. Time to see if 70 years of preparation pays off, Blackwood said, her voice carrying across the now silent bridge. All ships, take your positions. Today we earn our title as Guardians. Kex watched the tactical display as hundreds of ships, human and council alike, formed up in a defensive pattern that spanned the entire solar system. Below them, completely unaware of the battle about to take place, the Lyrians went about their lives, their ocean cities gleaming under 3 suns. All hands, Blackwood announced shipwide. This is what we trained for. This is why we're here. The storm hits in 22 hours. Let's show the galaxy why humanity chose to be guardians instead of conquerors. Technical Officer James Chen ran his fingers over the pendant his daughter had given him before this deployment. For luck, Dad, she'd said, pressing the carved stone into his palm. Now, as he monitored the experimental shield systems aboard the Guardian Prime, that luck seemed more necessary than ever. Kex observed the human from his temporary station, fascinated by the small ritual. The quantum storm's leading edge was now visible to the naked eye, a writhing mass of purple-black energy that defied normal space-time. "Shield harmonics at maximum," Chen announced, his voice steady despite the sweat beading on his forehead. "Solar tap stations 1 through 12 reporting full power." Commander Blackwood's voice crackled through the command channel. "Begin primary shield deployment. Chen, you've got one shot at this." Kex watched as Chen initiated the experimental technology that humanity had spent decades perfecting. The regular crew quarters aboard Guardian Prime had been stripped out, replaced with massive energy conduits and experimental quantum field generators. These humans hadn't just built a defense system, they'd transformed their ships into living shields. "Neural link established," Chen reported, connecting himself directly to the shield system. "Starting quantum field generation in 3, 2, 1. The view outside the ship transformed as sheets of iridescent energy bloomed from the Guardian Prime and every other vessel in the defensive line. The shields connected, forming a massive web of protective energy around the entire Lyrian system. "Power draw is enormous," Nix reported from her station. "The solar tap stations are operating beyond theoretical limits." Chen's hands flew across his console, making minute adjustments. A hollow image flickered to life near his station. A photo of a smiling woman and young girl standing before Earth's restored Pacific Ocean. His family, Kex realized, what they had to lose. "James," the woman's recorded voice played softly. "Lisa made honor roll again. She misses you. We both do. Stay safe out there, Guardian." The quantum storm's outer edge slammed into the shield network. Every ship shuddered. Warning alarms blared across multiple decks. "Shield harmonics destabilizing in sectors 7 through 13, Chen called out, his fingers dancing across the controls. "Rerouting power from life support to compensate." "Life support?" Kex questioned, his scales rippling with concern. "You'll suffocate your crews." "We have enough oxygen for 6 hours, Chen replied without looking up. "The storm will pass in 5. Maybe." More alarms. A support vessel on the outer perimeter lost power, its shields flickering. Without hesitation, 3 human ships broke formation, surrounding their wounded companion, extending their own shields to cover the gap. "Power reserves dropping," Nix announced. 40%, 35, 30. Chen's hands were bleeding now, the neural link feeding directly into his nervous system, letting him feel every fluctuation in the massive shield network. The photo of his family flickered as power systems throughout the ship struggled. "We're losing the outer grid," someone shouted. The quantum storm raged against their defenses, reality itself twisting under its assault. "Reroute everything," Commander Blackwood ordered. "And I mean everything. Weapons, engines, internal gravity. Give it all to the shields." Kex felt the deck lurch as artificial gravity failed. His magnetic boots kept him anchored as he watched the humans work in 0G with practiced ease. They'd drilled for this, he realized. They'd prepared to sacrifice everything. "Chen," Blackwood's voice softened slightly. "Your family, the recording, turn it off, save the power." The technical officer's hands paused for a fraction of a second. "With respect, Commander, I need them with me for this." The storm intensified. Through the viewport, Kex could see the Lyrian homeworld below, its oceans still peaceful, its people unaware of the battle being fought to preserve their future. "Power at 15%, Nix reported. "Shield grid failing in multiple sectors." Chen's neural link sparked, causing him to cry out in pain. Medical alerts flashed across his station, warning of dangerous neural feedback. He ignored them all. "Listen to me," he said through gritted teeth, blood trickling from his nose. "The grid isn't failing. We're not failing. My daughter wants to join the protection forces when she grows up. She wants to be a guardian. I promised her I'd show her why we do this." His hands blurred across the controls one final time, redirecting all remaining power, including neural buffers. "Commander, it's been an honor." "Chen, wait," Blackwood started. The shield grid flared impossibly bright as Chen channeled everything through his neural link, using his own nervous system as a conductor to harmonize the failing network. The quantum storm howled in fury as its advance was suddenly checked.
"Medical team to Technical Officer Chen's station,"
the ship's AI announced dispassionately. Kex moved without thinking, helping catch Chen as he collapsed. The human was still breathing, but his eyes were unfocused, neural feedback having overwhelmed his consciousness. "Power stabilizing," Nix reported, wonder in her voice. Shield grid holding at 110% efficiency. The storm, it's being pushed back." Through the viewport, Kex watched the impossible happen. The quantum storm, that unstoppable force of nature, began to flow around their shield bubble like water around a stone. Below, the Lyrians continued their lives, protected by guardians they would never know, saved by sacrifices they would never witness. The pendant Chen had been holding floated free in the zero gravity. Kex caught it gently, reading the inscription that had been worn smooth by worried fingers. "For the guardians who watch over us all." He looked at the unconscious human, then at the storm raging harmlessly against their shields, and finally understood. Humanity hadn't hidden themselves away from the galaxy. They'd been there all along, silently standing between chaos and those who needed protection, willing to sacrifice everything for those who would never even know they existed. Commander Blackwood's voice cut through the chaos as the storm's main body approached. "All ships, Titan formation. Council vessels, fall back to secondary positions." But the alien ships didn't retreat. Third Speaker Zal's crystalline vessel moved forward instead, its exotic shielding technology synchronizing with the human defense grid. "We stand together, Commander." The quantum storm turned space itself into a nightmare canvas. Purple-black tendrils of energy whipped against their shields, while reality fractured and reassembled itself in impossible patterns. The view through the command deck's windows resembled an ocean during a hurricane, if the ocean was made of broken physics and raw chaos. "First wave impact in 30 seconds, Nix announced, her 4 eyes fixed on the sensor readings. 20 seconds. 10. The storm hit like a hammer of gods. Ships buckled under the assault. Energy readouts spiked into red zones as the defense fleet fought to maintain their protective barrier around the Lyrian system. Through it all, the human vessels held their positions with stubborn determination. "Guardian Prime, this is Guardian 7, a strained voice called over the command channel. "We're losing containment in Sector 4. Without hesitation, Second Speaker Mir's massive dreadnought moved to support the failing sector. "Our shields are yours, humans. Your courage will not stand alone." The battle became a dance of light and shadow. Human ships wove between council vessels, their combined shield technologies creating patterns of defense that had never been attempted before. Where human determination met alien innovation, the impossible became possible. "Storm intensity increasing," reported a sensor officer. "Quantum displacement at 300% above predicted levels." A support vessel exploded in a flash of light, its crew barely escaping in emergency pods. 2 council ships and 3 human vessels immediately moved to fill the gap, their crews knowing that a single break in the line meant death for the civilization they protected. Kex watched from his station as Commander Blackwood coordinated the defense with precision born of decades of preparation. She didn't just issue orders, she anticipated needs, redirected resources, and held the entire fleet together through sheer force of will. "Guardian Squadrons 3 and 5, pivot 15 degrees starboard," she commanded. "Council vessels, concentrate your exotic matter beams on these coordinates. We're not just stopping this storm, we're breaking it." The combined fleet moved as one. Council technology, refined over millennia, merged with human innovation and determination. Where the storm struck, they answered with shields of light and barriers of pure will. "Look," Nix whispered in awe. Below their feet, visible through brief gaps in the quantum chaos, the 3 suns of the Lyrian system continued to shine. On their world's vast oceans, the pre-FTL civilization went about their lives, unknowing of the battle being fought for their right to exist. More ships fell back, damaged but not destroyed. Others rushed forward to fill the gaps, human and alien crews working together without hesitation or doubt. The storm raged against their defenses with mindless fury, but it faced something stronger than chaos: purpose. "Storm front approaching critical mass," announced the Guardian Prime's AI. "Maximum intensity in 3, 2, 1. Space itself screamed as the heart of the quantum storm struck their line. Ships were tossed like leaves in a hurricane. Emergency sirens wailed across every deck. Power fluctuated wildly as reality twisted around them. But they held. Human determination met council technology. Ancient wisdom joined with innovative courage. Together they created something the galaxy had never seen before. A barrier strong enough to stare into the face of chaos itself and say no further. The storm began to fragment, its energy dissipating against their combined shields. Where there had been death approaching, now there was only light. The light of 3 suns shining on protected worlds, the light of ships holding the line, the light of different species standing together as guardians. "Status report," Blackwood called out, her voice hoarse but unwavering. "Storm is breaking up," Nix reported, disbelief and joy mixing in her voice. We did it. The Lyrian system is safe." The council ships maintained formation with their human counterparts, no longer separate forces but a single fleet of guardians. Together, they had achieved what neither could have done alone. They had stared into the abyss of space and dared it to blink first. The next sunrise over the Lyrian oceans found a changed fleet. Damaged ships limped in formation, their hulls bearing scars of the battle. Of the original 120 vessels, 32 would never fly again. But they had won. Keck stood in the council's emergency session, his formal report ready, but somehow inadequate to capture what he had witnessed. The chamber felt different now, humbler perhaps. 17 million credits in damages, Second Speaker Mir announced, consulting the preliminary reports. 43 ships severely damaged, 8 lost with all hands. The chamber fell silent at the mention of casualties. And yet the humans would do it again tomorrow, Rivera finished, standing beside Commander Blackwood. The commander's uniform was still stained with blood from helping injured crew members. "Technical Officer Chen's neural surgery was successful," Blackwood added. First thing he asked was whether the Lyrians were safe. Not about himself, not about his family. About them. First Speaker Thorne rose, ancient scales gleaming under the chamber lights. "We have failed to understand humanity's silence all these years. We thought you primitive, isolationist, perhaps even fearful. We were wrong." Holographic displays activated, showing other protected worlds, the Keth with their crystalline cities. The Zara Collective's first attempts at quantum computing. Dozens of civilizations, each under the silent watch of human guardians. "The Council hereby recognizes the Earth Protection Forces as the official guardian service of developing civilizations," Thorne declared. "Your methods, while unorthodox, have proven more than effective." Commander Blackwood stepped forward. "With respect, First Speaker, we're not interested in recognition. Those 17 other systems still need protection. We have ships to repair, crews to heal, and watches to maintain." "Then let us help," Third Speaker Zal chimed in. "Not to take over, but to stand beside you, as we did against the storm." Kex watched the humans exchange glances. Rivera nodded slightly, and Blackwood's stern expression softened. "We accept," she said simply. "But understand, this isn't about power or politics. It's about giving them a chance. Every species deserves to reach the stars on their own terms." Later, as Kex prepared to board his ship for his next observation assignment, he spotted Chen on the station's medical deck. The technical officer was recovering, his daughter's pendant still clutched in one hand as he watched feeds from the Lyrian homeworld. "Beautiful, isn't it?" Chen asked without turning. "They just made their first breakthrough in quantum mathematics. In a few years, they'll look up at their 3 suns and dream of reaching them. And when they do—" "We'll be there," Kex finished. All of us, together. Below them, the Lyrian oceans continued their eternal dance, unknowing of their guardians above. But now those guardians stood united. Human determination joined with council wisdom. Silent protectors, watching over the dreams of countless species reaching for the stars. Not because they had to, but because someone needed to be there, standing between the darkness and the light. Guardians, until the protected no longer needed protection.